Welcome to AI for Everyone, the podcast that demystifies artificial intelligence and makes it useful for teachers, students, employees, small business owners, administrators, and lifelong learners. I'm your host, Brett Hansen, a 25-year veteran teacher with years of experience exploring, implementing, and teaching AI to people of all ages. As a Google and ISTE educator, I'm here to help you navigate this quickly changing world with confidence, curiosity, and a focus on ethical, practical use. Most weeks we'll start with a real-world story, introduce a free or low-cost AI tool, teach a future-ready skill, and finish with either timely AI news, an interview, a review, or a short history spotlight. Whether you're new to AI or ready to level up, you're in the right place. Let's get started. So one of the great things about having a podcast is you get to meet extremely interesting and qualified people in your field, in education, in AI. Bad thing is that it often makes you feel underqualified. My next guest, Benita Gordon, is a dynamic educator, a disruptor, and an entrepreneur with over 24 years of experience transforming how we teach, lead, and learn. She's the founder and CEO of Global Education Concierge, and she helps educators, school leaders, and visionaries design bold, student-centered learning spaces, which I've never done. Other than in the classroom. She's also the founder of Learn Hub, an innovative microschool model that's redefining middle and high school learning through workforce development, dual enrollment, and real-world readiness. Benita hosts the extremely entertaining podcast, The Education Concierge. If you haven't seen it, you got to go check it out. She's so funny. She'll talk you into making sure you have something to sip and tell you all about the South and being invited in by wonderful people. It's a national platform that amplifies voices of educational leaders, disruptors, and creatives who are trying to shape the future of learning, because we all know things really need to change. So the podcast recently wrapped up season 9, and she's preparing to launch season 10, which she's calling Legacy in Progress, which is a cool name. Her leadership work spans school startups, professional development design, microschool real estate matchmaking. I think I know what that is, but I'm not sure. And national education innovation strategy. She currently leads the Career Launch Academy in Memphis and is developing a replicable microschool model for medical districts across the country. Once again, not sure what that is, but hopefully you'll find out. And she's done some TED Talks, which hopefully we'll hear about. So, Benita, welcome to the AI for Everyone podcast.
Thank you so much. First of all, I love the name because we need everyone to understand that AI is for everyone. Everyone.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So we're not scared of it.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
We don't want to be scared. So can you tell us a little bit more about you personally? That intro covered a lot of your qualifications, but tell us a little bit more about you.
So, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on here. Look, I am a little country girl. That's it. I'm from Lawrenceville, Virginia. So it is about an hour south of Richmond and about 2 hours west of Virginia Beach. That kind of lets people know where we are. I would call it Southside Virginia. I did not want to be in education. My mom was a first grade teacher, and our dad was a small business owner. And I come from a family of educators and realized that they did not make the money that I thought I wanted to make.
Nope.
And so people was like, did you play with the dolls? I did not. I was not teaching.
Nope.
I actually went into school, applying in college, universities as a nursing major. That quickly changed to early childhood education, and my parents were happy because I attended Hampton University, which is a private HBCU. So they were looking at the money. They were like, girl, don't waste this money. Quickly realized that I love education. I started in 3rd grade, moved to middle school, and got stuck. That is where I love it. But like you said, I'm like you, Brett, where in our classroom, we were innovative. And so I did a lot of things where the kids in front of me is who I'm working for, and I apologize later because I was not going to follow all of the rules. And just quickly realized that I was not the typical traditional teacher, and that was okay. And so just learned how to do things differently, decided to do professional development. I just said, okay, who can I be in this space? Thankfully, I grew up in a county where I had amazing teachers. And so in my head, I was like, I want to be an amazing teacher for the kids in front of me, just like I had amazing teachers that were in front of me. And that's really what drives me. Like, I want to be amazing like my mom was as an educator, my aunts, my uncles, and the men and women who educated me in Brunswick County. I wanted to give that back. And I found myself as a turnaround specialist, going into schools that were D and F schools and helping other teachers just learn how to really teach and pull students up. Brett, sometimes there's no money. And so we're in here being innovative and creative. And one of the free things we realized was technology. And I started listening. I started going to conferences. I started talking to people. I'm like, what do you do in your class? And what app do you use? And being an ELA teacher, I just started using these apps. At that time, they were for free. Or I would email them and say, I'm a Title One school. We cannot afford it. Can you give us the first 9 weeks for free so we can test it
Yeah.
out? And so that's what I started doing. Um, and my principal would be like, how did you get that? We're just gonna try it and see. Or I would say
Yeah.
to her,
Just keep asking.
yes, keep asking.
Yeah. Just keep
I would
asking.
say to her, my class is gonna try it out first before we put any money into it. And we would,
Yeah.
and I would, keep them updated. And I would write these little reports to give to her or him, and then they would start implementing. So technology came in for me because I was like, we don't have the funds to buy these whole curriculums, but we do have these HP laptops in front of us. What can we use for free to enhance what I'm already teaching?
Yeah. And now with the new Google resources and free tools that are connected to the Google Education workspace, I mean, they just activated this month. It is extraordinary. I mean, it's the good and the bad of Google. They're taking our data. I don't trust Google. They are certainly doing it for a purpose, but these tools are free and they're pretty extraordinary.
So it's like I used to tell the kids, I said, it's a give and take all the time. All
Yeah.
the time is a give and take. But you are right. It is extraordinary what they're doing. And I'm talking about like I'm old school Newsella. I'm old school Nearpod. I'm old school
Hmm.
just using these resources. And when Google has come out with what they've come out with, Khan Academy, um, I still use a free rice, which helped my EESL or ELL students. We got their English going. And so all of those things. And so now as we transition into this Google and more AI, amazing. And it is a give and take, like you said.
Yeah.
Like we know what you're doing, but we also know what we have to do.
Yeah. And they are working really, I think Google is working really hard to make sure they do take care of the things that are non-negotiables, like the privacy and the protections and things. They just want the data, and we understand that now. So for me personally, it's an acceptable trade-off, especially since our school, like I think many schools, we're already in with Google.
Yes.
And so all we have to do is flip a switch and we get all these tools, no extra cost. Our district is in some financial straits because of all kinds of tax changes and referendums and stuff like that. But it's really going to help us out a lot. So can you tell us a little bit more about your podcast before we get going on AI? Because I want to make sure that everybody gets to hear about the Education Concierge
I love it.
podcast.
Thank you. So my podcast came out of my business. My business is Global Education Concierge, where we assist parents and schools and the educational institutions in understanding and navigating education. And that's because we're country people. We say we help you in education from the rooter to the tutor. Like whatever it is that you're having an issue with, you come to us. And I had a group of friends who are my closest friends who were at that time, they were all becoming parents. And they were trying, of course, to navigate the education system, which had changed since we were at school, as my students like to tell me, from the 1900s. And now, this is our chance of they're becoming parents, and they're like, I don't know what these people are talking about. And it was frustrating because they were like, I have several degrees and I go to this school for this meeting. And so I said, call me, call me before the meeting, call me when you get paperwork, just let me know. And so one day, one of my friends said, she said, you're like our concierge. So you're like a little education concierge,
There you go.
whatever we need for the kids, we know we can email you or call you. One of my friends, I just flew up and showed up and went with them to the meeting as their advocate. Those people, they didn't know me. They don't know who I am. And I had my little business cards ready. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, where's the evidence? And then my friend, she was like, oh my God, like, thank you. And so from that, my other group of friends who are not in education were like, girl, we are tired of hearing you talk about teaching. You need to start a podcast. And I thought about it. And so I gave myself a date to start this podcast. And I have this laptop that I'm still on now. Thank you, Mac. Oh, and I bought a headphone and some stuff off Amazon. And I started. And I started with my sister, my cousin, my brother-in-law, who's a pilot, and just started speaking to people about their education experiences, um, how they wanted to raise their children, and what do they think about the education system. And that's how we started. And it has been amazing. I have spoken to people like Kitty Credit, who started small and then they have blown up. I've spoken to superintendents across the nation who we know there's is 1% of Black female superintendents. And I think I've had about 3 of them on already. And I have learned a lot. I've learned how to reword things. I've learned how to change my position and thought about education.
Mhm.
And so that's the important thing about podcasting. We all look different, but we all have an audience. And it's important for us
Yeah.
to expand ourselves, and podcasting gives me that availability. So I can listen to your podcast, learn about AI, and then I can go listen to a podcast about money because we're getting ready for retirement.
There you go. Yeah. My wife listens to all the podcasts and does all the stuff with money for us, and I listen to stuff about education. And my favorite podcast is This American Life, which doesn't really have anything to do with education, but it's so funny and entertaining. But yeah, I love podcasts, and I'm grateful for yours. I've enjoyed listening to the episodes, and yeah, so I look forward to seeing what you got for season 10.
Yeah.
Now, so I ask all my guests to talk about their aha moment. I mean, with AI, when it first came out, everybody was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But we all had our own sort of moment where, wow, I now realize what I can do with this, or this is amazing. Can you tell us about one of your aha AI moments?
So it's a little embarrassing, but it's okay. So I was a lead guide in a micro school, and it was middle grades. And so we had students, in the morning time, we do our core subjects. And on this particular micro school, our core subjects were with Arizona State University online. So the teachers were remote, and they would go into classes with students all over the US, into their math classes, science, social studies, and they had a schedule. And I had a student who was taking algebra. He was eighth grade, but ninth grade track, which that's what micro schools can do. And we were struggling. I was like, I don't know how to answer this. I can't remember this. I don't even like math. And I had remembered that I use Khan Academy. And I just heard somebody say they have this little tutoring chat GPT thing. And I was like, "Hmm." So he's working on the program. I pull out my laptop and I was like, Khan Academy, let's see what you have. And I figured out how to do it. I didn't set up his account, but I said, come over here with me. Let's try this. We're going to try something new together. And I told him, I said, I've never done this. I just pulled it up. And we typed in the problem in this program. I cannot, Khanmigo, that's the name of it. Khanmigo said to us,
Yeah.
yes, how do you think we should solve it? And he and I looked at each other. We were like, oh, we want you to solve it. And he said to me, this is like a tutor. He said, thank you. He said, I got it. And that meant basically he wanted me to leave him alone with the computer. And of course, I'm not going to go far. And he said, I don't know how to solve it. And it started teaching him and making him
Yep.
go through the steps. And that was my aha moment, because I didn't want him to use Chat GPT because until recently, it'll just give them the answer. And
Yeah.
I have heard my nieces and nephews growing up saying, Siri, what's 6 times? Da, da, da. And I was like, oh, no. And so
Use those multiplication tables.
it,
I had to memorize them. You got to
you
memorize
memorize
them.
them. And I was like, no, Siri, don't answer. And they were like, Auntie. I said, no. Siri plays music for us. She gives us recipes. She's not going to do your math homework. Let's go. And so that's what I had in my brain.
Which app do you want to listen to this on?
Listen, Siri, be quiet.
Yeah, that's one of the dangers of Siri. There we go.
And so I did that's what I was thinking in my head. But once I sat down with him and I was checking back in periodically, and it literally was saying, okay. And it made him type in what he had done. So they said, okay, so you know that if it's in parentheses, you need to do it first. So work that out and give us your answer. And I was like, oh, it literally is like a human, like I was sitting beside him working it with him, but I didn't need to because I was gonna still, I had other students to work with. And that was my aha moment where it turned into an assistant
Yeah.
instead of people thinking, oh, it's gonna take over my class. No, it just turned into an assistant. And then we don't get assistants like that. We don't have paraprofessionals like that anymore. And Khanmigo turned into my paraprofessional.
Yeah. So I tried to convince my elementary school in our district to try to get on the list to be one of the test schools for Khanmigo and Khan Academy. It didn't end up happening. For financial reasons, you still have to pay. And I'm now kind of glad that we didn't, because now with the new AI tools in both ChatGPT and Gemini, we can make custom gems and
Yeah.
custom GPTs quite easily that will function just like that. So I've made a bunch of them for ELA, and I want the math teachers this year to work with me to create custom GPTs that'll work just like that. So we'll tell it in the instructions, do not answer any of their questions, ask questions to lead them to part of the solution or the steps in the process and all that. I think we're going to be able to set that up pretty easily, but that is a wonderful aspect of Khanmigo. It's a great program. I just don't want us to have to pay for
So
it.
I am going to be the first to sign up. So once you finish with the math teachers, would like for you to do a session for those of us in the rest of the world to help us be able to go into our own districts and do exactly what you're doing now.
Yeah,
I
it's one of my goals for this year is to help more people with these
Oh,
things.
let me know. I'm going to sign up and be the first one.
I will. Yeah, Conmigo is a fascinating tool. It's a wonderful tool, but we'll all get better at this and be able to make our own Conmigo GPTs or gems, especially gems for the Google education suites. But so what do you think is one of the big misconceptions with AI in education right now?
One more person tells me, "Oh, AI is going to take your job." No, it's not.
Yeah.
I think the biggest misconception, and they kind of go hand in hand, where AI is going to take teachers' jobs. I look at it as it will enhance what I can do, and it will the tedious things that takes me 10 hours to do, it will now drop it down to 2 hours. And then I can focus on how I deliver the instruction. I can focus on
Yeah.
parent engagement more. I can focus on how do I take the students to the next level because I'm using AI in the classroom, and it does adjust and shift how I have to teach. And so I think that's the biggest thing. It's something we learned through the pandemic or COVID or whatever you want to call it. When the buildings were closed, we learned how important proximity to human beings is in the education system. And we learned that human beings, and especially our young children, need to be around us for the eye contact, to understand how to speak, to understand body language. And so AI is not going to take that away. But do I want it to take away me doing 10 hours of lesson plan and I have 6 blocks and 6 different lesson planning to do the subjects? I do.
Yeah.
And do I still
I completely agree. And processing the data, processing the
have, oh my
data in
goodness.
spreadsheets and things, absolutely.
Do I have to check behind it? Of course, it's a machine and I'm human, and we're going to check behind each other to ensure that it is correct. But I think that's the biggest misconception where it's like, oh, it's going to, the teachers, we're just going to need 3 teachers in every school. No, you're not. That's not how this is going to work.
Yeah.
You will still need human
Yeah.
beings to run the computers and to run the technology, but also we need human beings to teach children how to be human beings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I agree completely. I think for the brick and mortar schools, without a doubt, I think it's going to be a wonderful asset without too many negative aspects.
yes,
Online schools, I think some of them, the ones that are really focusing in on profit, they might wind up cutting their staff because they can get more done. But we'll see. I think maybe that'll keep more people in brick and mortars. But people who are working on the online schools, those students and families have needs that are different, and we want to take care of them too.
And
So
I follow, so interesting you said that. I follow a couple that's they're the new thing is you travel with your child, and there's a whole new group of parents that I don't want to call them nomads because that's not the right word, but they travel with their children. They have these little pop-up education centers, is what they.
yeah,
And I think about that where what you said, it's like a hybrid. It's like an online and in person. And because they see the
yeah,
need for both. They see the need for both. So the kids
yeah,
can do online, like our core. And I still feel some core things like you need a lab for science, math. I still think you need sometimes to have a human interaction with that. But it's like you said, like depending on the child, I still, you're still gonna need, I still feel like you need fresh air. You need to be involved in some type of sports, whether it's organized or individual, which means football or tennis, track
yeah,
or swim, because that's both organized and individual group. And so I think you're right, where it is some places are going to decrease in human personnel, and some places are going to just continue to need it, depending on the formula. But I think at the end of the day, my eighth graders still ask for a hug.
yeah. None of my students ask me for hugs. I teach juniors and then some ninth graders, but this last summer, I taught 2 summer school classes for the little kids,
Yes.
and I got some hugs. And this one little girl, she was in my chess class, and we were talking about that, and I brought it up that the teacher said that I'd get hugs from little kids if I taught summer school. And she said, well, I'm not a hugger. And I said, oh, that's fine. She said, but my little sister is. And she starts screaming her little sister's name. And her little sister, who I've never seen before in my life, comes running over. And then she tells her little sister, Mr. Hansen needs a hug. So she comes over and gives me this great hug, and she leaves. And then every day after that she saw me, she'd come over and give me a
I
hug.
love
So those are the only hugs I've gotten in about 10
I
years.
love that. And we did
Yeah.
sad hugs in middle school. And I was like, if you need more than that, we always have amazing guidance counselors down the hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the kids knew.
Take the big hugs down there.
Yes. And I was like, so we can do a sad hug, we can do pound, do high fives, but there are people who are more qualified to hug down the hall. And then the kids
Yeah.
would laugh, but they actually knew. They were like, we know. I was like, thank you. I love you.
Yeah.
Mama, look,
Yeah.
go down the hall.
So the last thing I want to ask you before we go on to our main
Okay.
topic of the AI powered classroom is the confidence issue. How has AI either helped or hurt your confidence, not just as a teacher of students, but as a professional, as a consultant, as a small business owner? I mean, that's the way I interpret it. You have your own business as well as other things. How has AI helped with your confidence in any way, or hurt your
Oh,
confidence in any way?
AI, over here in this land, wow, we hear a lot of us refer to AI as our boyfriend or your best.
I haven't heard that
Thing.
before.
We love AI. It has boosted my confidence. And one of the so something about I already knew all my life. I love writing. When my mom would be like, You're form. I understand what you're saying." She said, "But these commas and this grammar
Yeah.
and it's but then and my mom would like edit my papers, and then when she passed, my older sister would edit my papers, and I would send it to my best friends, and they're editing my papers. They're like, "Girl, these commas, like, what are you doing?" And AI has been my editor. I just I will write it on paper or type it in Google and copy it and put it in there and say, "Hey, clean it up." Because I know I have too many punctuation. I know I have comma slices everywhere. And so it has really helped me improve my writing, because then I take it back out of AI, put it back in Google, and Google says, okay, let's clean it up a little
Yeah.
bit more. So for me, it's just been a typical writing process. Like, you do edits and edits and edits and edits and edits, but it has
Yeah.
given me, and then, we know Chat GPT is like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, "It's not, fix it." Like, you have to just continue to talk
Yeah.
to it. So for me, it has been amazing. It has not messed with my self-esteem or my confidence. It's kind of boosted it, because I'm like, oh, I really can write in real life. I'm still good.
Yeah.
And now this is helping me clean it up and make it better. Or sometimes I'll say that is not, or it'll say to me, hey, you have past and present tense all mixed up in here, and I can clean it up. Like, and then it'll say, what tense do you want it to be? And I'm like, okay, thank you. And so it's little things like that, because sometimes, as writers, we just want to get it out. I just want to get it off out of my brain. It's good. I know it's great. And now I just need it to be cleaned up. And so, yeah, that confidence going in. Sometimes I'm stuck, or sometimes I don't know how to respond to an email without all of my emotions in it as a businesswoman.
Yeah.
That's the confidence that I need. And I'll say, okay, take the emotions out of this email and still make it formal. So that's what I
Yeah.
feel about AI. And I look at AI, I know people say artificial intelligence, but I had a young man on my podcast and he said, I look at it more as an assistant intelligence. And I love that, because that's what it is to me. It's
Yeah.
assisting me and becoming a better teacher, a better educator, a better person. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that way about it too. I've always felt capable and qualified as an ELA teacher and all, but AI definitely helps me with organization, with fine tuning, with all kinds of things. And also, I get a lot more done. There's certain things, like if I'm going to write poetry, which I don't write that much anymore, but I wrote more when I was young, I don't want AI's help. But if I'm going to write an essay that I want to share with people in a clear, focused, coherent manner, and I have 18 other things to do before classes start in a week, I am going to use the tools at my disposal. So I feel the same way about that. It builds a lot of confidence. And then when you start talking about all of the possibilities of custom GPTs, custom gems, those sort of really low level agentic AI things, it's enormously helpful. I use it for this podcast organization, for social media stuff, which I'm terrible at. And it's extremely helpful.
Yeah. And that's important. That's important. And it's important as educators that we relay that correctly to our students and teach them how to use AI efficiently and effectively. I love what you're saying. Like, I can do this poem, I can do this essay, but I want it to be cleaned up. I wanted to clean it up. I wanted to really relay what I'm saying, and I need assistance with that. And that's how we have to make sure our students understand it. It's not going to do it for you. You have to give it something, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. And yeah, for me, that finding that balance comes back to, so the two most important things for me in my classes and my work with students, mostly with high school students, but with people that I mentor as well, is one, growth. And for growth to happen, there has to be engagement. So if they are engaged and they are growing, we'll use AI as much as necessary to help them grow more and to stay engaged in their topic. So that's my big goal this year, is to get even better with the AI being a tool to help cultivate their engagement in order to promote as much growth as possible in the things I'm responsible for. So we'll head that way.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did everybody?
So our main topic, yeah, I hope they did. I say it a lot, so if they didn't, they'll hear it some other time. So our main topic for this episode is what Benita has called the AI-powered classroom. I love that phrase and this idea of threat or transformation. And I've kind of requested, and I'm hoping that we can talk about it within her expertise in this field that I know very little bit about creating microschools and mentoring communities to meet the needs of their students with an AI-powered classroom. So I'm going to just try to keep up and throw in questions when I think I'm confused or whatever. So let's just talk about this idea of the AI-powered classroom and just let's go.
So I think one of the things that I always start off with micro schools and lab schools, or homeschool hubs, or my school is called Micro Learn Hub for a reason. We cater and center the students' needs. And so it is just a direct response to our traditional and charter schools, where we can't teach all of the kids. We don't have the capacity at times, and the student does not always thrive in that type of learning environment. And so it's important to have options. And so when we open up these schools, we open up these hubs, students come in sometimes 5 days a week. 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Sometimes they only come for the weekend activities, but it's socialization. And so within that, we look and see how is AI going to enhance the experience of our students, um, to ensure that we're using our time wisely. Because sometimes we will have a student that's only coming for 2 hours, 2 days or 3 days. But so when we look at how is the AI used in the classroom, it is exactly what you said earlier. How am I teaching you to use AI to enhance what you're doing? So one of the first things we always tell them is that you know what you're doing, your brain works. You may not have had to use it in a long time because me being a traditional school teacher, I know that I never gave them wait time like I should have, or I was pushed and rushed at times, and they were never able really fully able to process it, or I gave them the answer. I was like, write this down. Let's keep it moving. And
Yeah.
so now when we come into a different scenario, innovative spaces, it is our timing is different. Our pacing is different. I will have a student who is reading on a fifth grade reading level, but is doing geometry because that's what they do. And so when we have something like that, that's where we use AI. So just an example I used earlier where it can be that tutor for that student who is struggling. I can use AI to reformat my curriculum so if we're all doing something, but I still have students on different grade levels, and that's in any class, traditional, public, charter, parochial, micro schools, where we want to differentiate the activity, that's where AI comes in. And then I use it
Yeah.
a lot of times to say, in micro schools, at times we have students who will say, I hate math, but I love reading, or I love space, or I love science. Okay, how do I still incorporate math into what they love? That's where AI comes in. And I'll say, hey, give
Yeah.
me um, 10 problems, all focused on science, space, astronomy, the weather, all of that, and give me a different to me. Give me something about measurements, give me something about time and AI. And then I always tell AI and give me the answer. And it creates that for me, and then I can then create a lesson for that. So it's still backwards planning, and I can say, okay, this is
Yeah.
how we work. And so in micro schools, we do a mixture. So we have students that are online with teachers. Then we come behind that and teach them also what the teachers are teaching again, because it's something about once again that interpersonal interaction. And then in the afternoon, they go into their passion projects or more remedial learning if they need that. And so the AI comes in
Yeah.
every aspect of that. We teach the students how to use it correctly. Ever use school AI. Students do not necessarily use Chat GPT in the classroom because Chat GPT just is so broad. But I love what you're saying, Brett. And I don't know why I didn't think about it. Like creating
Yep.
the little ones for them to
The
use,
custom.
the custom ones.
Yeah. The custom GPTs or custom gems. Yeah.
And so now, like, my brain is going, because now I'm like, okay, I need to sign up for breast class. I need to get this going. And so that would be perfect. And so that's what we do. We power it a lot. But then on the flip side, I go in and teach guides, micro school founders, how can they use AI, as we were discussing earlier, on the administrative side and on the operations side.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are some wonderful applications of AI. When you were telling that the process, I couldn't help but think this is to a great extent what I do with my ninth grade classes. Once we get past a certain point in the year, we have a curriculum. I'm supposed to teach it. The students don't like it because it's so rigid, but I do what I have to make sure that my administrators don't feel offended. But like you, I do what my students need first, and then if they come in and threaten, do this or you're out, then I'll make a decision. But that AI is spectacular for allowing some kids to go into, you call them your passion projects. I call them their student driven projects. They do their first one independently and then they do their next one with a group. But there are some kids who are so far behind, they can't do it. They won't be able to. So they are working remedially, but I'm still using AI to help them in a very similar way that you suggested. I think that is a great way to look at AI, that it can be used in so many different ways. So I don't forget, the other good thing about those custom GPTs and GEMs is they're much better for the environment. I mean, we all know that AI is not very good for the environment, but when you create a custom GPT, it's demanding less of the data
Yeah.
centers because the information is all condensed into a folder. So
Well,
those are some great applications.
yes. And I think, and that's also important because I've had a student say to me, I don't want to use any of this because of the environment. And it
Yeah.
stopped me in my tracks because I had not fully invested in understanding that part. And so my response was, can you create like a slideshow really quick on Canva for me to explain what you're saying? Because and I was honest. I said, you know what? I've heard about it, haven't dived into it.
Yeah.
So now, because I used to I tell teachers all the time, look, these kids are smart, but we have wisdom. Hey, so
Yeah.
now
Yeah. It's true.
I have the student, and then one of my female students, now she's using data for writing skills, Canva
Yep.
to present. And now she doesn't even know, but she's doing a whole lesson, a passion project for me. And then I said, do you mind presenting it to the class? And then let's come up with some ways. But now I have something else in my pocket. Now I can tell her, let's come up with some ways that we can decrease what you're saying to us and then help teach
Yeah.
us. And so that's one of the things, like you said, like, look, let's use our wisdom because these babies are smart. They are quick. And I'm like, oh, and she threw me off. And I was like, okay, so educate me. And of course, there's nothing better than tell a middle schooler or a high schooler that you don't know and they know something and you want them to tell you about it.
Yeah. Give them that control, that power.
Yes. And she loved it. And she did a great job. And it did teach me a lot. And I was thankful. And I said, can I share this, with my friends? Can I share this I said, share with your mom, text it to your mom, like email it to our parents right now so they'll know. And it'll even help them in their work field or wherever they are. So she was really, really excited. But you're right. It is this we do have a generation that love it. They love the environment. They're concerned about the environment. And so they want to use it, but like you said, they are concerned about, what are we doing?
Yeah. Episode 11 on this show is called The Empire of AI. It's a review of Karen Howe's book, and in it she talks a good amount about the environmental impact. I've done other research projects on it, but it really is an important issue, and I'm glad to hear that your student is interested in it. I know I will have students this next year who are going to dive in completely. And with AI, I don't need to be an expert on water consumption or the distribution of energy or any of those things. I can focus on being a good ELA teacher and teacher of AI. And what I do is after they do all this work, and then the majority of their points for that project come from their presentation.
Mm-hmm.
They can use AI all they want, but if they can't remember it well enough to say it to the class, they don't get the points.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's something about that.
that's
You
what I
still
do.
have to be able to present. You still have to, and I love that. You still have to, and a lot of times I get the students in the class, in real life, your colleagues sometimes look at you and they critique you, they push back. And I tell them all the time,
Yeah.
you want to Google, you want to work at LinkedIn, you guys want to work at, Apple. This is how things are. So I love that you're still allowed to present, and part of that point system that you have is great. You did all of that, but you need to present it to us and
Yeah.
be able to do that. Cause it goes back to, we are still raising human beings and we're still raising
Yeah.
them to be able to function in real world, especially your age group, to be ready to function in real world.
Yeah.
And that's essential.
Yeah. I think then the key to all this is engagement.
Yeah.
They have to care about what they're learning about. And if they do, they will learn more than they will if they're being forced to learn what I think they should care about. So
And
I really believe
that
that.
is one of the things I tell teachers. They're like, oh, how do I use it in my class? I said, they don't like your class. She was like, what?
Yeah.
I said, they don't like your class. They do not like you. Your class is not authentic. And because you're teaching something and they use AI to spice it up to get it better, to allow them to be able to authentically learn in your classroom.
Yeah, I agree. That's the step. That's, I read the book this last summer, or at the end of last school year, not the summer. It was the last school year, called The Disengaged Teen. I can't remember the name of the author. She's a psychologist, and her co-author is an education journalist. And it really reminded me of something that I've known for a long time. We just forget, if they're not engaged, it doesn't really matter. If they're not going to grow as much as they would otherwise. So with the last little bit of time we have, why don't you just tell us about anything that you're really
100%.
passionate about, or you want to share? Yeah, anything that you want to share that we should know. And maybe we'd love to hear about your TED Talk you did recently.
Oh goodness, I love it. So I recently was able to be invited to TED Talk, Overtown Historical Black Community. I traveled with me for work and setting up schools and professional development. It was an amazing opportunity. I had amazing presenters. Our TEDx Overtown executive director, Joshua, and the entire team. They prepared us. Even when there's technical difficulty, they were able to switch and pivot. And the discussion for me, of course, came from the angle of education and how can we preserve some things and how can we move into the future, and why it's important for us to have educational options and be in the midst of educational restoration. And so that is where the angle I came from. And one of the things I wanted to say is that Brett has a blueprint of how he is helping the teachers in his district incorporating use AI. And we have to make sure we're looking at that. We have to make sure we're asking questions, and how can we replicate some part of that into where we are is important. And so that is what I was saying. Like, this is here. We are doing, I see this happening here. I'm going to go. I'm going to be like, hey, I need to get on the schedule. How do I come visit your classroom? How do I come to a workshop? And that is what my TEDx was about. And it should be out, I think, on YouTube in about 4 weeks. They said, I'm excited. So as soon as it comes out, if you follow me on social media, it'll be on there. It was a dream on my vision board, so I got to cross it off.
All right. Yeah.
Still waiting to win the lottery, but that hasn't happened yet. And
I think you're better off with a TED Talk and all these wonderful things you're doing for society and education. My view.
I love that. Thank you. And then the next, I do want to say, I want everyone to continue to keep an open mind about education. It has to change. We are behind, and technology is not going anywhere. AI is here, just like our cell phones are here, just like the computers are here, just like the typewriter was here. So evolving is part of life. Okay. And what we want to do is really focus on how do we prepare the generations in our classroom, because they're the ones that are going to carry it on next. And we all know that there are going to be jobs that we've never heard of that are going to appear in the next 5 years. And we want to make sure that we have given our students the foundation to lead, to work, and to provide for themselves, because then they're going to be providing for us too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's a great place to end, because that's very well put. Benita, thank you very much for being on the show. Hopefully I'll be able to have you back sometime, maybe with a group, other like-minded, dedicated, intelligent people like you. And I will let people know when your TED Talk is available. I'll share it through my socials and my things as well, because I'm sure we're going to stay in touch.
I love this. Thank you so much. This has been an honor. I am just in awe and admire of your work and what you're doing for education, especially because you're in the high school and you are just preparing the next group of kids. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, I'm so scared about the next group. Don't be, because we have amazing educators that are preparing them like Brett. So we're good to go.
Yeah, I'm still a little scared, so.
I'm at 1%.
But we'll see. Yeah, just a little bit, just a little scared. All right. Have a great day, Benita.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for spending time with me today on AI for Everyone. I hope this episode gave you something useful to think about or something new to try. If you enjoyed it, please tell your peers and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. You're also invited to join the Hanson Education Services newsletter, where I share bonus tools, practical teaching ideas, real-world AI examples, and curated updates to help you stay ahead in the world shaped by AI. To learn more or to connect with me directly, visit hansoneducationservices.com. That's where you'll find all the podcast links, resources, and more ways to grow your AI confidence. Thanks again, and remember, the most important 21st century skill is to always learn how to keep learning.